So as you probably know by now, this vacation was my celebration and also my hard break after 4+ years at Uber. I'm still processing the whole Uber thing. I've written a little bit about it, but I'm not quite ready for like a full post-mortem with reflections on that just yet. So instead, let me take some time now as I'm waiting in the lounge before my flight back to Mexico to do kind of like a best of, a highlight reel. What were my favorite things that I did? All right, so first and foremost, in this as in all things, food. All right, so my favorite meal was in Cannes. It was my second to last night in France, so right around the midpoint of my trip. It was at the Palme d'Or, a 2 Michelin star restaurant. And you might be wondering, what are you talking about? I didn't see that. That's right, you did not see it. There were no snaps of it. There were no pictures of it. There will be no Instagram of it. But trust me, it happened. And I'm gonna remember it for a long, long time. It wasn't the most extravagant meal I've had. It wasn't the biggest tasting menu. And it wasn't necessarily even the best wines I've had, but the harmony created between every single dish and its accompanying wine, or in the case of the main course, scotch, was just, it was really, really beautiful, not only to taste, but just to like experience the creativity and the creative harmony between the sommelier and the chef. Sometimes one outshines the other, but this was just, it was perfectly proportional. And you know, just like, this is gonna sound nerdy, you're gonna say this is such a J thing to say, but just like a perfectly composed symphony, the balance, therein lay the beauty. All right, favorite activity. That's another easy one. The cork factory in the south of Portugal. I'm obviously much more into wine than I am into cork. It would be weird if it was the other way around. But even though I did so many wine tastings, etc., it was the cork one. That was my favorite activity because, I don't know, I came in doing a little bit, but I learned so much. And I just found it so fascinating, and the tour was an excellent one. I got to be up close and personal throughout all these parts of the factory process. And I really admired learning about a relatively unappreciated product, sort of globally and in my day-to-day life, that is so integral and celebrated in Portugal. It really felt local and important, and it was awesome to kind of see behind the curtain and gain an appreciation for cork. Also, the tour guide repeatedly made the point about the kind of beautiful symbiotic relationship between cork in Portugal, which is celebrated and, you know, studied over generations. It's a craft that is honed and perfected, that takes a lot of time, that requires sort of respect and seriousness in a way. The relationship between that community and their sort of top purchaser, which is France, because you do truly need that top quality cork for your champagne and of course for your wines. So I didn't really make such an explicit connection going in, but having spent all of June in France and then my first stop in Portugal, all they're talking about is how the French are like, they're willing to pay for quality and they appreciate a good cork when they see one. Getting that tie-in for my own, you know, my personal favorite country in Portugal, it just sort of like sweetened the whole experience. Like, yes, I love them too. All right, how about this one? Favorite impromptu decision. Again, easy. Deciding, you know, 3 days before the match, totally last minute, to abandon my beach plans and fly to Paris to not only watch France play in the World Cup final, but win the damn thing. And then spending that night in Paris. Hopefully you saw those snaps. If not, you could check out the YouTube video. Oh, I can't. No words, man. No explanation needed. That was ridiculous. All right, let's change gears real quick because I gotta go catch my flight, but I want to get this down. I got some tips for, you know, after quitting a job, or really any major transition show, after a big graduation, whatever it is, I do have some thoughts about making the most of it. So obviously, the main tip is travel. Get out of wherever you were. That thing you just finished, go away. Leave it where it was, go somewhere else. If you can, if you're up for it, I recommend get uncomfortable. Go somewhere where maybe you don't speak the language fluently, where you're not familiar with all the food that's going to be served to you. You might not know how the metro works or how to get from here to wherever. Get out there. Force yourself to be in the moment, present focused, figuring out what's going on around you. Learn things, experience things, just make a bunch of memories, and that's like overall the best way to kind of put a hard cap on the thing that just happened. There will be time to reflect, but the first thing you got to do is, you know, not surprising, I recommend what I did. Quit your job in the morning, grab a flight out at night. Okay, here's one you won't read on the internet. Get a new scent. Whether that's your deodorant, your perfume, your cologne, all of the above. Scent is super powerful. Scent is memories, right? And I don't think I necessarily consciously did this. I just kind of ran out and needed a new stick of deodorant. But throughout the trip, and now especially, it's just gotten more and more and reinforced to me that I'm really glad that something at kind of that fundamental level was quietly but importantly different, noticeably different between this trip and this travel, this transition period, and my old job. I'm really glad I did that. I recommend it to you. All right, here's the last tip, and then I gotta go. Save room in your suitcase and expect and plan to buy clothes during your trip. On the one hand, it's similar to the scent idea. It's kind of a simple way of reinforcing the differentness between now, this transition period, and putting a hard cap between whatever it was that you just left. And it's also a souvenir, right? Just not the kind that's gonna sit on a shelf and gather dust. Then when you go home, whenever you throw on that new shirt, whatever, you'll have your fond memories to look back on your trip with.